Welcome to Free Range. Sean Bond is skilled at accessing the user manual for DNA technology of the body to track issues back to the point of origin in order to resolve any problem happening to the body. It may also be accessed by organic, spiritual technology within each individual. Sean assists in creating operating systems to help individuals manifest dormant abilities that unlock their psychic potential and upgrade the body's energy systems. Everyone embodies spiritual technology, which encompasses an infinite scope of possibilities, such as connecting the individual with their spiritual entourage, such as their higher selves, the Creator, the Mother Earth's realms, and or other expressions of themselves throughout time and space to resolve issues and exchange wisdom, knowledge, and skill sets. Here is your host, Gail of Gaia, with her guest, Sean Bond.
Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, whatever time it is, wherever you are. This is Gail of Gaia, and this is Free Range. And today we're here with Sean Bond, and he is a very interesting young man. And very talented, I might add. He is a healer, and he has a lot of other talents that include he works with people as a meditation instructor. He helps people remove different blocks that they may have, etheric implants. He talks about heart walls, past life regression, Akashic records, chakra balancing, spiritual science, lucid dreaming, all of those topics. So we'll cover some of those topics tonight. And Sean, I'd like to introduce you. And which one will we, or should we start with? Blocks. Where do blocks come in for people, and have you been able to work with people on that and help remove them?
Thank you for having me on your show. Yes, I'd love to talk about blocks. A lot of things into that, besides just the basic concept of the metaphor for a thing in front of your pathway that's stopping you, or a part of existence that keeps flow, or resistance, or uh, stagnation, interruption. This is a bunch of different words. Uh, there's snags, weaknesses, there's imprints, entanglements, wounds. There's a lot of words for the types of blocks and how they manifest, but yeah, some are in our DNA, some are in our light body, or different parts of our energetic spectrum in technology and our psychic abilities and our brain power, our energy, our thinking power, ability to dream, take in nutrients, absorption, awareness, memory. There's so much, and so then people can look at those type of metaphorical blocks in the circuit of uh, moving current that allows a system to operate, and what is slowing it down, stopping it completely, or filtering, and can figure out the ones that are not needed to be there, and what are the ones with positive reason, and the ones that don't have any reason all other than to just limit you for negative purposes. And then
Well,
the ability to get rid of the ones fully and develop ability for getting rid of the negative ones, and then questioning and interviewing the ones that need to be there, like if it had to do with the past life thing, and like, oh, you did something negative, and then this block is there until you do this one thing to make up for it, and then all that. Then it will have like a story behind it, and it will go deeper. A lot of the bigger abilities usually have that. So
is
it
that like
depends on what you
karma?
talk about. Go ahead.
Was that like karma? Is that what you're?
Yeah,
It is
that'll
karma.
go along with it.
Oh, okay. So if we have a block of something, it may be from even a past life.
Yes. Yep. DNA, past life, spiritual entourage, our electromagnetic field or environment, wounds. I mean, you can like have those encapsulate a lot of them, but then it will branch out into specifics for sure.
Wow.
What would you be interested in as an example?
Yeah. Yes. Well, there was a time when somebody said that I had a throat block in my throat chakra, and just out of, curiosity, you have to wonder, well, what created that? Even though I have some ideas, I mean, sometimes it could be this life programming, or it could be from past life. But how do people get rid of these things?
May I interview yours as an example if you would like?
Sure.
And again, it's tailored to each individual because they'll have a different story behind why the block's there. What's the the motivation behind the creation of the block? Because it's usually not like something that happens randomly. I don't think I've ever really seen it much random or coincidental effects. Usually there's like some higher awareness of time behind every chess move involved in this dream, but I'm still on the lookout for those elusive coincidences that people tell me all the time exist. But yeah, so yeah, going into that, it'll be different stuff. So with your throat, as an example, I'll tune into a little bit of it. I'll just censor for what is allowed to be shared. Let's see. So like 5 main ones that I see in the bulk existing. Yeah, mostly in the chakra of. So I'll like narrow it down. So the process of this in developing with your psychic abilities is narrowing down like psychic sculpting, getting rid of all that's not it, and then tuning into each aspect. Asking questions about it in the interviewing. Okay, so all 5 of the blocks on the chakra are in the 0 point of the chakra, in the singularity, the point of events, which will hold a bunch of stuff, like chakra technology. A vortex brings in energy, internal, external, from the environment. Also can be a portal and a bunch of other things, depending on if the person's allowed to work with it, and the technology is there for those that understand it. So yeah, most of the blocks on the portal yeah, I'm getting a lot of throat tingling talking about it. So like it'll go into, okay, there's some intelligence about this. Okay, block. So let's see how this works. So then I'll ask, like, when did the block come from? How did it get there? It comes with your light body, so a spirit thing. And I'll like go back in time in your timeline to see when the whole event happens. Yep, past life stuff. So I'm gonna then track it back. Interesting. It goes back to Madrid, Spain.
Really?
Yeah,
That's
have you ever
interesting.
interacted with Spain before this? Not in the same, it's not like this lifetime, but like anything call you there?
Not that
See,
I'm aware of.
I know,
That's
like
interesting.
examine the history. It's quite a bit back in time. I don't quite know this history. I don't think many people get it. Okay. So I don't know exactly when, well, the years and all that, but what around the events of when the Catholic Church came in to Spain, something about and so like then the signature frequency of the block, is it positive, negative? Is there any reason for it? Are you going for karma? Nope, nope, nope. It's yep, and, yep, curse. So 1, 2, 3,
Really?
yeah. So it's from the Catholic Church.
Gee.
Yeah, right. So they used to do a bunch of things when they were first coming in because they weren't popular, but they had armies and the whole Inquisition and all that.
And yeah, the Inquisition. Yeah. I thought it was
So
burned at the stake before, but I don't know.
right there we go. And so you would have been a bright shining person. So what were you doing? Yep. And how that block get administered? You were hung by them for witchcraft. They were just rounding up people, even if they weren't. It was just people that they didn't like, and they thought would be rebellious because they're trying to be the main mind control power. So yeah.
Oh, that makes sense.
Yeah. So then they do their spiritual projecting over the people that are dying, and it's essentially them enforcing a will on them, and that is still a curse, and it's to silence you. 1, 2, anything else? It's a lot of energy harvesting, so it's trying to mark your spirit. They probably did some other things before the hanging. Took you certain places that had like their magic over it, and while you're in there,
They are so evil.
they may have tortured you a little bit. 6 and 8, 9. I think they were trying to get information of like I think they were trying to find other witches or something, or people that were against them.
Mm-hmm.
You didn't speak. Yeah. And why were they trying to silence you? Just your awareness, all that. Anything else? Yep. Just trying to. They do this with pretty much a lot of people, and a lot of that energy comes over. So anyway, so the noose thing. And then you can do this in a bunch of different ways. You can meditate, and you can kind of like to where you get power back over the noose, and you take it off back in time. Let's see what needs to happen on this timeline. I'll ask and see if this is set in stone. Am I allowed to do this on the show? No. Okay. I shouldn't. Okay, that's fine. Okay, I'll do certain types of healings. So ways to heal the curse for this one. And the curse, 1, 2. They're stealing energy. And I am presence authority from you, which is in the heart chakra, which is what you use to have out loud statements for your rules of your reality, and other things that you want to do, like putting the heart source into it.
So the curse included the heart. Is that what you're saying?
The I am authority is like the source.
Oh, okay.
You speaking with your bravado of like, yes, this this is so kind of thing for you programming the body and beyond. So they're trying to take that, so then that limits you and a bunch of other stuff. So you can get a lot of that back, and your energy about 1,000,000 units stolen. They've had that few on you for a few lives. It's been stealing energy for those lives. Not all the time, of course, and you're able to shut it down. But when they have when the Jesuits have enough stolen energy, they usually do that in a big ritual that affects a lot of the planet.
Wow.
It tries to update. But so ways you get out of this is you send healing back to that point in time. Let's see what you need to reject the curse. There's different ways you can address the curse. It's either brunt force, slow disarming, because a lot of them have booby traps, or doing like things at the event, or even having a remedy with the person that cursed you. It was a priest.
Figures.
Were they able? No. Okay, the week. Trying to see the strings to pull that unravel at all that I'm allowed to talk about, because I could do this a bunch of different ways. But you get your energy back in like a freedom pulse. So you just accumulate a bunch of freedom energy in your heart, like you're building up the feeling of freedom and compressing it into a star, and then you're wanting to explode it out to the quantum entangled part of you in energy and I am authority, and to where they burst and get out of entrapment.
That's fascinating.
Yeah, so the curse is it has no you rejected it out of your field, so it's essentially it is not in your field except for the entanglement to the parts stolen that are off in a distance. So that's where the curse is being put around, is your parts. So once you get the parts out of that negative area, they're not able to imprint that on you, and you've developed a curse a certain level of curse immunity to the entanglement, and through those lives of doing healing, eventually to where it barely affects you. But it's still like when they put enough energy into it and are trying to steal energy from the stuff that they have stolen, then it will affect your throat and bleed over, and you'll feel a little bit of pressure. It affects a bunch of different aspects of the energy, but it essentially freezes the chakra so it doesn't move, and lessens. And then, like, if the energy parasite of the Jesuits really gets expanded through whatever the heck they're doing of stealing energy, then it will burst more and try to steal more types of authority. And it's doing this for a bunch of different systems around the planet as like their attempts when they have energy to like reach out farther. So you can, freedom energy, go ahead and do that if you want. You can hug yourself and breathe deeply and kind of cultivate bliss and love, because love will hold that too. And the freedom energy will come from your heart. And what is a thing that you can also transmute negative energy into freedom energy? What do you have that wants to do that? Okay, do you have any feeling inside you of being limited or suppressed, or a feeling of in a cage? Any types of emotions like that?
Yes.
Okay, go ahead and grab onto those, hug those, and I think they want to become freedom. So pour love into that and transmute that into freedom energy, and then build up that freedom energy, and then explode that in your visualization to your quantum entangled parts, freeing them, and then they'll come back. I'll help you as well. Okay. So how are you feeling currently?
I feel good.
Sweet. So that will continue in the background. We built enough energy currently, and you can just breathe into it and know that your higher self is directed to it. You can just, if you don't know if you're doing it or not, just ask your higher self to get on it for the audience. What other blocks do you know about that you've been told about yourself, or know based on intuition?
Well, I have one, but I wouldn't want to share that one on my show. The throat was big. The throat's always been big because it's like a lot of times I feel like I want to say something and I can't get it out.
Yep. And yeah, they'll go with the freezing of it, and it like sometimes doesn't have the energy of it. Also like feels tongue tied, or there's a frog in the throat.
Yes.
There's all this technology. Like you're dealing with mostly the Catholic stuff, but I've seen all types of weird limiting, and a lot of people have more than one is what they're ready to take care of.
What other
What
kind of
is
blocks?
your optimal state of what you imagine your voice can be and reach? Because it also goes into communication, your career, and telepathy.
Oh, I like telepathy. I feel like it's actually been starting to come online more so. But when I'm close to someone, it's a lot easier. Like that feeling when you're about to call somebody and they call you, that kind of thing. Or you can sense when one of your kids is upset, depressed, whatever, and things like that.
Right, it's mostly like heart telepathy, and when the love connection is established, it's easier to translate and transfer information, and then like pretty instantly, because the heart seems to have even speeds of energy that travel faster than light, and even into the like have like a I think there's like a institute, I forget what it's called, that did maybe heart math. They went into
Oh yeah, it is
describing how it goes into the future and it senses data in the future, and that goes in precog abilities.
Yeah, that's amazing. The field from the heart is so much greater than from the brain, and we tend to concentrate on the mental aspect, and I think we need to be in the heart more than we have been.
Right, and I guess what is with mental body, I'm kind of like going on a discovery path with that quite a bit, because I before a lot of this, I was like going heavy into emotions, because it made everything easier to translate, and more into love, and who doesn't need that. Now I'm kind of going more into mind, and then I'm finding all these different cool avenues I didn't know before, and it seems like the mental body is also centered in the heart, which is interesting, and we mostly associate with the brain. And
You're talking about me in particular?
Well, anyone.
Or anyone, okay. In general, I was just wondering.
It just like goes and extends into the brain, but also the gut brain too. Anywhere there's neurons, it extends into, and yeah, this like helps translate it and process it even better, and the sensory capacity of the eye is pretty amazing, and the other things I've been going more into the types of energy that are needed in the fields, and the systems of the different organs that need to be turned on more or have been dormant for a long time, or that amplify telepathy. And there's like some interesting clairaudience things that overlay with the ear, and some switches and knobs and meridians that I've been going into, and it gets a little nicer. I've also had weird experiences where this fuzzy like clicking kind of like radio static started happening in my ear, and I'm like, what the heck is that? And I started thinking it might be an implant or something, and I can't really tell. There feels like there's bumps and stuff, but whatever. And I do get that it is that, but until I look at an X-ray, hey. And sometimes it happens only sometimes when I'm especially talking with super soldiers and other
Oh, that's interesting.
individuals, and so it seems to be reactive. And then I started doing this thing where I started making knobs for it, and then I would start slowly, not like just doing that, but like trying to really tap that neurolinguistic program to start grinding the gears together and make it turn. But going along with it, it started reacting to that, and I was trying to. It kept telling me, "Do you hear me now? Do you hear me now?" And I kept like, "Oh no, it's a little less clear," and then it started getting a lot more clear. So there's that too, but I think that's more of a implant. And then I think you can do that the same way with telepathy, but it's something you have to develop. I developed it more through actually working it back and forth. In the beginning, it was quiet and like barely sounded different than my own thought. And then it gets more individualized. You start getting a very subtle signature frequency. That's a voice, that's an energy. It's kind of like when you're talking to another person, they have like a weird feeling and energy that comes off them. It's a scent, a sense, pheromone. There's a lot going on to it. It's like all that travels with them when they're trying to communicate. And in the beginning, it's like the ego gets in the way, and that will kind of make it less clear. And so training it kind of widened it up, and it went into more clear. And I teach people how to go through the training course of telepathic text messaging, walkie-talkie, then live Skype call, a kind of telepathy. And it doesn't work with everyone easily, but everyone can learn it if they do enough effort. Some people have more blocks. There's a lot of blocks on it, especially for humans. My God, we have the blocks of every species that we have DNA for. So all their negative stuff that they get comes on.
Oh, wow. Because they had, it was like a conglomerate of DNA that was used to create humans in the first place. And so you're saying that those different ETs had their own blocks or issues, so to speak, and that gets added to our repertoire of whatever we're dealing with.
A huge weight you're born with it from the beginning. It's like the ocean for a fish. You don't know what the ocean is. But for other species, it's super dramatic. That's why a lot of them don't come here, entangle with us. It hurts them. It's like they'll feel the drama, because we have things that are constantly trying to monitor us for positive and negative reasons. But like the negative reasons is what they worry about. But if they're also trying to change our timeline and mess with the game, then the positive will start telling them to stop. But they'll get attacked afterwards. That's why it's like they'll either have to be resilient and made for it, or the person has to be able to hold up their drama themselves, and also cut back anything that's trying to monitor and camouflage from it all. to be able to talk to with them more.
Mhm.
It depends on the person too. Other species are way easier to talk to energetically because they're holding up a lot of the weight of the telepathic interaction, and all you got to do is like sync to it. And if you do it with another human, then you're dealing with all these blocks that like
Blocks.
try to like keep them from syncing up, and it takes that practice and effort. And usually I would say there's like a way where you try to have a timer and you test when your friend that practices with you says your name, and you attempt to sync it up with when you hear it, and the more you get it right, the more you're accurate you are, and then you can like move it on to like transfer of information. Simple things like colors or shapes like the Xeno cards, and then playing numbers, playing cards, going all the way up to. You can also do animals and do sync remote viewing. You can train a bunch of abilities. Also, if you have a guide, they can give you the message. A lot of the times, the guide is easier to talk to than other people. So it's like whatever you're capable of at the time. And if you can release a lot of the blocks, then that's the best thing.
Wow. So when you're referring to or looking into this, you're speaking to the person's higher self?
But that's a
Or
good point, right?
yeah.
Yeah, if they don't know telepathy, then yeah, their higher self will answer for them, like their secretary kind of thing. And same thing with animals. Their higher self will react to you more than the actual animal. But if you're doing it really well and there's like a love kind of exchange and reaction to where the higher self gets really interested in what you're doing, like if you're doing an animal communication healing, then the higher self will influence the physical being to be reacting and hone in, kind of like the higher self is being more present. And it will say and react and do things like an animal would, but like it's putting more information out than just it's growling, like behind the growl, like light language, and how the concept is how much light you're putting into your words.
What light language kind of fascinates me. Where does that come from?
Right. It's kind of something that just spurred up. I'm not exactly sure where it came from. There's a lot of people that claim to be the origin of it, though I think that's just our current term for it. It's been called other things in the past, and it's like been used in which it amplifies spells, your ion presence, your linguistic wave genetics, sacred geometry linguistics, going into cymatics of the wave modulations of space being pushed out, or vacuums, and like the geometry of that imprinted into like metal plate they do with cymatics, and put the sand on top, and then you blow into the thing and it makes a different geometry and different sounds, and it's wonderful. And each of those can be used in different programming for DNA and spell work, or there's even monks that are able to get like 50 people. They all like have an exact geometry and a place that they point their voice at a rock, and they can essentially move a boulder with their voice with acoustic levitation. And that's wonderful. And then there's also ones that you can make a portal with and interact with flame. It goes into, like, if you want to change the weather or heal somebody or bring tears to an eye, or emotional somatic release, depends on the trigger and what your authority into the voice. And then speaking that, there's also a song in the heart that helps people with that if they sync with that. And it's fun. Yeah.
That's pretty amazing. So if speaking of implants, are they in the physical body or are they in any of the different bodies? Are they in the etheric body? Are they mental body? Or the casual body? Or what's the other one? The emotional body. So can
Absolutely.
implants be put in any or all of those bodies?
Yes, absolutely. Every bandwidth of energy, there's been some type of consciousness that has learned the ins and outs of that. Implants can, as a neutral tool, but a lot of times it's used negatively. I have found positive implants, both so there will be I'll usually put the category of physical implants and then energetic, and then see all the spectrums of elementals, and then I'll go through those for a person's body as well. Some will be harder to find or bigger, like a bigger drama, and they'll be like camouflage and the whole person's ready for it, or they find a practitioner that can remove it. Otherwise, it's like some of them have monitoring systems, and you don't want to trigger their awareness that they're about to be removed. Otherwise, they'll react and
Oh,
try to
really?
stay or like influence it to be replanted, because the goal of it is to monitor, steal energy, get information, influence. So like the positive don't usually do that. The positive usually do like some counter. I don't even usually see the positive implants unless they have also negative implants, and the positive ones are usually to counteract the negative ones, if the person's allowing it, and it's usually by their soul family. And they're like usually like psionic amplifying in some way their abilities. The negative ones usually steal energy and are just monitoring and don't need to exist. And if you can get rid of them, do. And you can scan for that. They'll usually have a parasitic effect.
So they're stealing your energy, basically, is what you're saying?
Yes. Especially I mean, the physical ones, they can, but it's usually the energetic aspect of them, like if they're haunted or they get a lot of things working through them, because we already use dirty energy technology, the internet, all that. It's not the best biologically, but yeah. So then, so there would be, it's just a word to describe, putting something inside a person's field that's not originally from them or of their creation. And you can make your own implants, but I don't recommend. It doesn't really do positively things unless you're like good and you have authority. But it doesn't really work if you don't have authority. Then you want to you can find what the positive ones are, and you can release the blocks that you and use them to their fullest. I'll see there's weird like crystal accumulation ones that are made from an energetic link to it, an amazing magic crystal that some species has that is giving that to you. I've seen it in different parts of a person's brain, and this is the energetic version. I'm not saying the physical ones. And some I've seen really advanced ones where they take a single grain of dust from a collective of a crystal, of like millions of different crystals, and they compact it all into one and make a super organite device of some type.
Wow, that's amazing.
And like some that are really small, like a ball, or needles I've seen. But the energetic implants, they can get even more advanced, such as having AI or an artificial sentience, or some parasite anchored into them. And there's been a large range of types that I've seen, but you can put a skill set that you're making better into taking care of those, like psychic surgery and removing them out of a person. I can also do that and yeah, they'll block. And the same thing with psychic parasites and other things that will attach and try to just siphon energy away, and so that person feels like they're tired all the time.
That's what I wanted to ask you about, because sometimes, I don't know, I was told I had implants and they were removed, but I was also told that they can come back. And
Okay, do you want me to look at that?
yeah, would you see if, yeah, I was,
Nothing to be concerned about in physical. You removed a lot of incursions into that. There's also like ETs and soul family. If somebody gets a lot of, if they know for sure they have a lot of implants and they're all negative, as an example, like a lot of people will have Intuit, like most of the implants don't need to be there in the timeline, and the reason they're there is something stole your authority, so you have to retake that. And a lot of them will start not phasing out of existence if you take them out at just the right angle. Yeah, you've done a lot of clearing, so you've been narrowing them down. See what type you have left. What I'm allowed to talk about. You have void. Okay. How'd you get that? So I'm gonna age 10. Void. Why do you have void?
What's
So in
that?
your void body, like
Void.
the space between universes. Yeah, void space. It's the
Oh.
vacuum. It has an energy layer to it, and it holds a potential all energy and 0 points kind of thing. Creational womb. And this would be around your throat as well. You seem to have a powerful voice. Things want to limit it. If you have a lot of limitations in place, that usually means that you're really good at that area and something wants to stop you from shining that and changing timelines. Like people that are really good at the ocean and they've been afraid of it since birth or something and they don't know why. If something wants to stop you from connecting to it, that'll usually be the imprint in a lot of phobias. Okay, it's there, so... So the causation is because you have a... Am I allowed to say that? Yeah, okay. So going to protection with this, you have a rare... it's kind of like a 0 point energy generator where you can take energy out of the vacuum for your throat. Large amount of potential energy and use it into your singing and light language and healing, and you could use it for a bunch of different spell work and commands and prayers and manifestation wishes. Yeah, quite a lot of potential with that. So there's a limitation on that. When did you gain that? Okay. So this comes with the authority that you've had for a while. It goes, did you just earn it? Nope, you're rehashing something, and that goes along with your spirit, taking it more of your mantle of who you are. This goes back to anything else? Okay, when in the lance is falling, a lot of negative stuff happened, kind of to the where it started completely shaking up the reality, and beings tried to uncreate the universe is essentially what happened. And then the universe got restarted, and it had a creational point, and a bunch of beings during the intermission period, because there was a big wound that happened to Earth, and a lot of reality started breaking down and getting messed with. So a lot of beings went into void space. and that fractures everyone. It's like being ripped out of reality kind of thing.
Wow.
And people had to learn how to get back into creation or be honored. Like Earth was doing this thing where she was restabilizing everything and coming out of her ill state, and she was creating lifelines back into the reality for like certain DNA lineages, and then she was trying to filter it out so that nothing negative would come back in through the uncreation. A lot of that's some of it's still getting in through hijacking and stuff, but there's a lot of people that try to figure out how to get back in on their own as well, positive and negative, and a lot of those people are here, and it's like a weird obstacle course Earth is to be here. So into that, when you're there, you went through a bunch of mystery schools and you gained a group of people, and your way I'm going to keep asking if I want to say every part of this. Okay. You form like some type of meditation, stillness, being one with the void type of thing, and then that's one of the correct ways to do it. And I think you learned that before you got there, so you were prepared for it, which is cool, which goes along with your intuition. And you weren't there long. Wonderful. You're able to get back faster than other people, and you connected deeply with the Void Mother, which is like the overarching consciousness of Void, and entered more of her mystery school, gained a lot of authority in that, and were able, you learned how to create things from the Void in the 0 point energy, and so that's using the voice ability you gain there, and that's one of, I'm not going to go too much into detail because a little dramatic, telling these ways how to get back in, but you were able to get back in, and you're now integrating a lot of those powers as you've been retaking parts of yourself that have been lost from negative beings, because you have your void body more activated, and essentially that's if you were to see it kind of like a dream body, where you have the main hub of your body and your auric field, and you have that layer version of it, and then all these energy, kind of like a photon, but like version of that type of energy emitting, and using that as a sensing organ and being able to go into the places. So you will have an overlay of your body in void, and you can daydream into that and have vision work into the void and start having missions like sending off these non-local bodies while you're meditating to sense into things. And be careful, because there's, of course, big predators in the void. There's things that aren't allowed in the universe in the void, but there's also a lot of positive things that were uncreated with, unreasonably or understandably at the time, that everyone had to be uncreated kind of concept, including the really positive beings. And a lot of our friends, soul families, and loved ones, and parts and pieces, soul parts and energy, are in the void waiting for us to find it, kind of thing. And so you're right now doing that already, and you can just sync with your higher self on what they're doing already and make it better. And you can like sync with some of their missions. One of the main missions you're doing is reclaiming parts of yourself.
Wow.
And that's where some of the abilities that are activating more are coming in.
Oh, that's fascinating. Very fascinating. Okay. Well, what about heart walls? Is that along the same line as a block, or is that something else?
Very similar. So let's take care of one as an example right now. How's your heart feel right now? If you were to compare and contrast, because a lot of people don't ever get this question, so it's like, so I guess take as much time as you need, and like imagining, compare and contrast your state of being right now And if you can imagine the time you were most happy, most blissed out, or at least one of them that you can remember. And sense back into that and kind of have them compared, and like use the comparison of size and scale of how much love you experienced and heart power comparably, and use that comparison to describe the thickness of the wall that's holding your heart back from expanding. And
that's interesting.
it will be very subtle, and a lot of the times I ask people if they have a heart wall, they'll be like, no, I don't feel anything. And it's like, well, are you the happiest you've ever been and able to maintain that all the time? You probably do. Even if you've been healing a lot of them, there'll be those more resilient ones that need a little bit of more room for attention or whatever. And it will also represent things we're dealing with in a day, or integrating, or holding up, people we're entangled with. So it all depends. So I can like read as an example some of it, and you want to kind of like see your heart flame in the center as a operating system, and then the walls. And then you can color coordinate the walls and what they mean and feel into them and sense. I'm not okay. So don't expect to see all of them, because it will be like what you're ready for, and then one at a time. So the first one, if you can feel the pressure that's holding back your heart or on top of the heart, like resting onto it. And what way would you describe that emotion? The main emotion that's coming up
right now?
Yeah.
Well, what was happening when you were describing that is I was recalling a time when I felt totally, I felt very blissful. I remember even saying it to somebody. It's like just feeling so, blissful. It would be wonderful to feel that way all the time. But
You can.
that's
It's just like every emotion has purpose, and it's just like whenever emotion comes up, learn about it, resolve it, whatever it wants to become, and then bam, back into bliss. Because it'll all be a reason and sense, and then as long as you're not wanting to control it, it'll be able to expand greatly.
Well, do you think that there are such things as negative beings that affect that, the ability to hold that bliss by things that will happen to you or to family members or whatever, and then it affects that feeling. The bliss turns to lower levels.
Yep. Yes. See how accurate I can make this. Usually there'll be consciousness behind it. It's not always going to be an entity. They do have those, and I've experienced the demonic attacks, and it's horrible. And it kind of feels like in Harry Potter, the Dementor creeping in, and if you were the window glass, the ice coming in, creeping in, and it's slowly getting you to forget everything that would empower you. And it's like a fire in your heart is like being hushed out kind of feeling.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, and that's not fun. There's ways to get out of that. 3, just to remind people, your love. See if you can spark that. You can do it through breath work and hugging yourself. Remembering you are everything, including the thing that's the demon that forgot, and your power. You're more powerful than that demon for sure, and it's trying to put you in a state of fear that gets you to believe that you're less powerful so that it becomes so. And it has to, again, have your authority and energy to get into reality. So it's somehow through some backdoor wound or whatever, getting in, and you can retake that back, use some type of empowering action that makes you, because it'll be like a question of like, oh, what can I do that won't me be like in action feeding this entity? And it's like something that is you expressing freedom or creativity or something that inspires you in love, higher vibration. It has to lower you down. So like you, it has to lower you down to its level to harvest from you and stuff. If you're at a high level, it becomes very uncomfortable because it has to rise up very quickly, so it makes it detach usually the negative entities if you're in a high state of vibration. That's why, like, people in love and happiness, it's hard for entities to be around them unless they start like triggering them down to their level, and then they can feel.
Oh, that's an interesting way of expressing it. That's very interesting. Um, It's like they say that you should be able to be in the worst of circumstances and still be happy.
Exactly. Yeah, and same thing like with martial arts, like Bruce Lee and some other fighters. If you love the thrill of like testing yourself in battle, and you change that fight or flight response of fear into love, then you will have your full brain and heart behind you, which has your infinite consciousness to win in any regard, and also be able to take pain better and react and all this kind of stuff. So if you love, you combine love with anything. It's like a little hard in the beginning because like, how do you get fear and love together? Well, they kind of fit snugly together, but in the beginning it's like a repelling force until like you put enough effort of like it's kind of like bringing them together, a hug, because one of them is like uh the energy I'm describing, because it still has consciousness, a low form that is the building block of consciousness. um it's like a narrowed shell of lack of love, so it's like a shell of its fullness, and it needs to do all these things to protect itself, which is the fear stimulation to survive. And so you have to get in a space where it loves you, like you accept it and it trusts you, and all this healing, like nurturing embrace, and bringing any energies together, yin and yang. It's like a bringing lovers together kind of thing.
So are you saying, or as you understand it, we're supposed to balance our not yin and yang, but our light and darkness? Does that make sense? It has to be in balance.
Yep. Anyone that tries to get rid of one or the other, they're gonna have a hard time, and it's gonna be a long thing. Like yin and yang, like there's always light and dark within a person, and it's understanding each world, and that, I mean, people are ready to embrace light, so we don't really have to talk too much about that. It's like, yay, love and light is wonderful, and it's necessary, and it's our deepest power within us. And those that don't fully embrace it or understand it or think it's weak don't really know the understanding of how both need each other. Otherwise, neither one can exist, and it would just go back to neutral. It's like this energy of like they're the two halves of the same coin. So like in the beginning of them becoming one, they were together, and so they had to go farther and farther away in expression of each other in extremes of light and dark. And for that to exist, there had to be something for the light to do and the dark to do in their evolutionary path. They pretty much influence all evolution. The whole battle between light and dark is to bring us to a state of need for evolution. And also the dark that we get on this planet as a representation are not really that good at being dark. It's like being in a higher difficulty. Like you're surrounded in hell, you're constantly being challenged. It's not for everyone. And the people that are forced to do it, whatever, and they're part of the game and chess move, and they're brave and all of that. Well, most people now on this earth that are in the dark get corrupted and taken over, and they lose their sovereignty, and they aren't able to hold up and balance it, because it's like a unicycle on a tightrope walk while dodging gale force winds. And then like, because the darkness is unbalanced darkness, or unbalanced, the most separate from source energy is antithesis to source that I've been able to label. And that unbalanced version, like balanced antithesis source, is like antidote for evil, or antidote that like balances it back up. But like the polarized states of this end is evil, that I've been able to find. And so that kind of corrupts things, and it wants to change beings that look at it. And people that are too prideful or arrogant or egoic will think that they're invincible, and the goal is to be confident but not underestimating. And there's constantly stuff to look for and challenge, and there'll be a lot of camouflage stuff, so it's definitely not something to underestimate. But yeah, if you can get both, and we're like a expression of angels and demons together in one body that like is attempting to end their war, as well as the war of most species in the galaxy, at least, depending on the body that people have inherited. And yeah, if we can get the angel and demon in us to come together in peace, and that'll be like a representation of all our lives, and light and dark. People will have light and dark, like a sine wave, a woman, male. The game will try to get them in all experiences in a goal to complete them. And yeah, well, if you're a powerful light, you're going to probably have a powerful dark. And so there's like this dynamic of back and forth that expands an individual, and those will be those past lives will be representations in archetypes in the person, and even can become alters, either through natural stimulation, needing it, or fracture into where the person has developed the alter, and sometimes they have some interesting abilities based on what they need at the time to survive. And yeah, getting them into peace is a big goal. And to do that, there's a lot of things. You have a negotiation with them. You get them to sit down at a table, and the light's usually good to unite with you and resolve stuff. And the dark, mostly what I've found is it doesn't want to be controlled. And it feels like it's boxed in a prison. And it usually is, but like that's understandable because of the amount of negative shit it's got going on. Also, it can't control its shadow. It's like got a part of itself that will attack things that it doesn't want to. That kind of thing happens with haunted people as well. They have a ego and a shadow that just deals people's energy, no matter if they're friend or foe, and they can't quite rein it back. Some people can if they have enough effort, but again, if your shadow is that big, then you're letting things entangle with you that are abusing you, and that will come up in the symptoms of drama and people not feeling good around you, feeling drained, or being adverse or repellent. If a person wants to get rid of that, and that's like if somebody has an out of control programmed psychic vampirism thing passed down to them, either through DNA or their environment or who they've been interacting with, or who they were in the past.
So that wouldn't be their original blueprint then, would it?
Nope. Yeah, exactly. So yeah, that's all external added on programs, and that's a good point. They could just let it all go if they entered a ceremony into that, but most don't know how to let go. Yes. And also are afraid. The ego is like afraid to let go of power and all this. So if you're getting the dark to unite with you in yourself, it's like you don't have to worry about external darkness. If you can unite with your darkness can pretty much kick the ass of anything that comes your way usually. And that's like the purpose of light and dark. Like light is the healing, expansion, growing, And like dark is like what is needed to form as a barrier between incursive forces. Originally, it's supposed to be the shield or the resilience, or if something goes into a dark spectrum in place, they'll get wounded and challenged in a bunch, and that's going to train them to be more resilient. But they won't form the resilience unless they come out of the darkness into healing states, and they build on that healing state, and they get more. If they're just in darkness all the time, then they're staying there, and they're getting some resilience, but not enough to where they're fully sovereign. And so releasing control over them in a state where your higher self will slowly let go control as you enter a state of faith with your higher self and your source, that it can protect everything that's going on. And once you let go of control over them, that you're going into automatically a place of negotiation and discussions with them on like, because they don't want to be controlled, but they want to come to the conclusion of unity, that's the best option, which you can absolutely do with enough negotiation. And like they'll want to trade eventually. You set it up like, okay, we'll let go of control over you if you start this negotiation with us and trade, and we go into unity, because the light will trade them healing and the dark will trade them back resilience, or I'll beat that demon up over there or whatever. Yeah, or like because like demon hunting is a thing. Like if something stole parts of yourself and you have to put enough force up to claim what's yours, then that'll go on that. You can do that with love, of course, but that again, combining both light and dark. And so eventually after it receives enough healing from the light side, it will become more sane, more sovereign, more intellectual, more ability to kind of understand your side of things, and it will be more in unity, and its shadow will start shrinking, which ultimately it doesn't want to harm things. Most people, if they're afraid of their own darkness, it's the shadow that is uncontrollable, which usually means the dark self is overwhelmed from usually ignoring it or pretending it's not there. Like people like to box it down, like this doesn't exist, or like try to completely hush it out. It doesn't really work, because the reality is constantly needing the balance, because it's just lack of light. It's like the state of being in a place with less light than a permeant one, and that takes skill to maintain yourself, otherwise you succumb to it. So with enough of that, the shadow will completely shrink down to where the dark self isn't putting self-defeating programs in the body, and they're completely united. You release most of your self-defeating programs, and you rise up really fast, and your power amplifies like millions of times, and it just amplifies everything you're doing. You get a lot of intuition, and the dark holds back things that I'm trying to imprint to it. Of course, it's going to be the thing like the root chakra, the hell realm, the thing where everything gets quarantined down into, and like that will be the thing. If you have problems in your body, then it will be like, oh, the dark self's overwhelmed, and you're now ready to deal with this. But understanding that's the purpose of darkness, is to quarantine the problems of the greater spectrum into smaller places.
That's fascinating. Well, basically, if I understand you correctly, what you're saying is that our own darkness, which needs to be balanced with our light, actually is a benefit to us.
Yeah. So there's a bunch of different expansionary perspectives that are needed for this fully, but imagine like going back to the concept of the purpose of evil. People want to be like, okay, I eventually want to live in a world without evil. Wonderful. That's a good goal, and that can happen. Essentially, what you need to do that is compress all evil down into smaller and smaller boxes until where it becomes more manageable, and you can transmute all that's left back into balanced antithesis of source to the antidote of evil, and then rebound it back up the dark elements to the neutral to the light, or whatever spectrum it is. And every unbalanced state of existence has that antidote within it. Oh, sorry, what was your original question again? Going off topic.
Well, basically, I went back to that somehow our own darkness is of benefit to us when it's in balance. It can be out of balance, and then it could be,
Right.
correct me if I'm wrong, then it could be harmful to you.
It's both.
But
It's like a gun. You hear, it's like everyone has to be careful with it. We're already in fear of it, so it's like, okay, I understand that. And that's a safe place to be, because you don't, like, if you can detach from darkness, great, do it, because it comes with a lot of separation consciousness, a lot of negative things, less love, lack of love, all that kind of stuff. So we know it's there, and we can't really get rid of it. So whether we like it or not, it's there. And the macrocosmic games in the universe, sources, angels, all the macro consciousnesses, light and dark, are all in this big chess game of all these different chess games from all these different planets. And they're trying to find a way to do what that is described, which is to have an antidote for all evil, because it seems to be in a long inherited cycle of abuse that's been passed down in understanding aspect fractal of source that it inherited from the source that created it, and keep going up. Kind of interesting thing to look at. And so macrocosmic sources are trying to compress and find the antidote for that, all of that evil down into smaller and smaller places and territories. Earth is like an example of what we're doing, where we're resolving most of the drama throughout the multiverse in one place and compressing that down and making it so that we resolve it very quickly. And the rules of that are set up to do that. And so that we're compressing a lot of evil in the multiverse down to the solar system, the planet, and compressing it into bodies that are walking around, super DNA skin suits of people, not necessarily just for evil, but like the whole human species being super. And then sometimes the dark is farming different bodies, and they have that incarnated in there. And so there'll be like a lightning rod and a compression of all evil if it's working correctly. And it will be that way until have a make or break forced moment, as otherwise they're just high difficulty players, and they'll just do that make or break moment to force them into a better behavior, and then they can get out of that karmic creationary aspect of reality.
mm-hmm. It seems like we've had more darkness on Earth lately than light, and so until that light is shown on more of that darkness to put it in check. Is that what you're getting at, more or less?
Yep. The more darkness there is, it's going to spark more light. So same thing with light. If there's a place that has a lot of light, it's going to attract a lot of darkness because they're attracted to each other. The dark is more attracted to the light, but I guess the light has this feeling of goodness, and like I have to help my brothers and sisters and stuff, so it will go at like the white knight going after the dragon, and so that'll be the attraction it goes for. It also, the dark steals a lot of things, so it usually has to go resolve that. But yeah, they constantly challenge each other to grow. So there's a purpose for them, and we don't have to condone the actions of evil, but we have to understand it more. And that's like going into the secret of good and evil, which people are afraid of because the Adam Eve story with the tree of good and evil and that and some other stuff. So whether people want that or not, it's in their body. It's literally even. I mean, I don't particularly agree fully with the story that happened there. There are some symbologies and some stuff going along with with the creation of our species. But yeah, and we are definitely having the knowledge of good and evil within our bodies, and we can access that. We're just mostly afraid to access it because we're told that it's negative, it's a sin somehow. And none of that really makes sense, and it's not really a good test for humanity. But
that was a big part of our indoctrination, wasn't it?
Yeah, right.
Those stories and
because it has the secret of what one of the purposes we have if you want to resolve the war of light and dark, because they don't have to be warring against each other. They have to make each other better in evolution, though. They're usually just turned against each other by the force of light and dark. I don't usually call dark evil. Evil is the thing that throws a wrench in between them and gets them fighting, and it not be as advanced evolution, because the evil wants to put them in a state of separation and less empowerment so that it can get a run up on both of them and somehow control them, which has been the spur of the false light and the false dark.
False dark. I haven't ever heard that one. I heard about false light, but I haven't heard false dark.
Yeah, that's how would you describe false dark?
If you I have no idea. Well, I'm not sure. Do you have an example?
Yeah,
I've heard of
there's like
light.
a few different types because it describes something that's not dark. I would describe most beings, but I mean that it's also kind of I feel like it's an arrogant thing to say, is that like most dark beings aren't true darkness. They're not balanced darkness. Most of them are unbalanced, but so that like then goes to evil and then them being dominated. So they're dark, but they're not what dark could be at its greatest potential, which is something that can protect entire things and still have love. And like there's a bunch of things with that, but like as an example, Saturn and Jupiter. Jupiter is like a big shield for the entire solar system, and it protects with its gravitational field. It takes in meteorites and all that, and same thing on a spiritual level. It's got a lot of guns, and Saturn used to be a star, and then it fell, and then there's a lot of things with Saturn, but it's essentially holding up 99% of the darkness that's coming at the solar system. And it's like the thing, there's a lot of ways to describe it, but it's like the big dark protector for the solar system. We would definitely have way more planets destroyed in our solar system if we didn't have Saturn. So I have appreciation for them, but I also know that they're constantly telling people to, hey, take care of your shadow. And it's like like when Saturn comes retrograde, all that.
Yeah, we've had a lot of that. Just out of curiosity too, do you consider yourself psychic?
I do, but I didn't start, well, I kind of did start out that way. I didn't know about it. It was mostly emotional and dream and visions and stuff when I was a kid. And then I mostly got into it because I got into science. And then I wanted to figure out, I learned that IQ is not a fixed number. You can actually increase it. And I was like, oh, how do you increase it? And I like learned all these things and increased my brain power quite a bit and my memory capacity. And then I started switching on other things, and a lot more mystical experiences happened. And then I went into that because I had some mind control things around me and people saying not to go into that, but I just busted through it and then reemerged with that, and then had these really big experiences that then just made it all click. So yes, and I'm even developing more and kind of expanding past the definition of psychic because it's a lot of abilities, not just one for sure.
Yeah, well, you are quite you seem young, and so there's a lot of room for expansion.
Thank you. You
I'm sure.
too.
So that's pretty interesting. Well, let's see. What about this is one other
You look
thing.
very young as well. Thank you. I
Thank
love
you.
when people call me young. It's like, thank you. I don't want to be an old man.
Well, it happens quickly. It seems like anyway. Um, but what was I going to say? Okay. A lot of people have been talking about that during this time period, they're having more what people call lucid dreaming. Now, have you had that experience yourself?
Yeah, lots of times it's fun. I had it like really big, and that was like amazing. But like when I first started happening, like an example. I became it's like an awareness. It's like truth shining. It's knowingness. Like you're in a field that you're sensing in the dream, and you have this knowingness that comes to you like, oh, I'm in the dream, where you get triggered into it. And I was in one of the first time I remember, it was like in Walmart, and I was like, oh, this is a dream, I can do anything. And I started taking this off the shelf and just playing around like ninja stars and like dancing. And also I one time I was woke up in school. If you ever had a school dream, they suck. It's like they're trying to, it's like usually an energy harvesting thing that like this, because the schools are so haunted, and there's something trying to anchor somebody there that usually gets them to come back to the dream world. And it usually has me like thinking I'm still in school and like I'm getting taught something, and there's a test, and like, oh, did you prepare for the test? Or like if you don't have clothes on, it's like, oh, you're in your underwear, and it's like, ah. But yeah, I usually when I have those dreams now, I made it so that like if you know there's certain types of dreams that you're prone to, you can have a visualization in print exercise of repetition that brings the triggers that you'd see in that dream to wake you up. And if you can set that as strong as possible, the more likely you wake up. And I get to the point where every time I'm in a school dream, it'll wake me up and I'll get really angry. And because they're trying to force me to think that I didn't prepare for a test or something, and then I get all stressed out. And the attempt is to change my day and wake me up with negative emotions. And so I'll like tune into like, oh, this is something that's trying to take that either had, I don't get these anymore, but when I did, it usually had some energy from me in the school, usually based on like bullies or the energy harvesting parasite.
Mm-hmm.
And if they have your energy, they'll try to bring you back to the dream world to keep you coming back there, and then take more energy from you by stimulating emotions. And then I'll get mad, and I'll feel into the prison of that, and I'll bust through it. And I'll like break desks, and I'll like, I think I've gotten into fights in some of those dreams, but I don't usually get into fights here. But like, since it's a dream, I'm like, well, I gotta show you not to do this again. And sometimes I've also had bullies from the past that stole energy in there. If anyone has negative people that show up in your dream that you don't want to dream with, that's usually what's happening. They usually have your energy and are trying to reach in your dream world somehow. They don't really know about it. Almost none of them do. So if you try starting a conversation with them about it, they will have no idea what you're talking about. But the entities around them will be stimulating it, and you can do whatever you want to do that. If you can do peaceful, great. If they keep coming back, no matter what, you have the right to defend yourself. And if you need to lay the bully beat down, if it's a bully or whatever, or because it's about emotion.
There's a universal right to defend yourself, right?
Right. And they'll.
Okay,
and
that's
a lot of
interesting.
times it's not even them. It's like something else pretending to be them.
Oh yeah, okay. Well, that's interesting because somebody told me that they had, now lucid dreams seem really real, right? I mean, you really feel like it's that the last time I can remember that. I was just a kid. But anyway,
Yeah, what happened?
I was jumping rope in my bed. And
That's cool. I haven't heard that.
and my
Yeah,
mom
right
said,
on the bed?
yeah. And my mom says, what are you doing? And I answered her. I said, I'm jumping rope. And she said the bed was going, she could hear me jumping in the bed.
What do you think that means?
I have no idea. I was pretty young at the time, but that's funny.
Uh, were you having fun?
Oh yeah, yeah.
Okay, then that's probably I'm getting that's the message. It's like have more fun. It's like covering a bunch of things. I guess you need to have more fun in your place of dream. So whatever that could mean, like whether you're in bed and having fun, watching a movie, or like stimulating that energy in some way, or even imagining the situation in meditation where you're having fun, something to do with that as a completing. But I think you already did most of that already.
Mhm.
So a while ago. I also had a dream where this is one of my favorite lucid dream. It was that made me remember another one. Okay, so I have a few different ones that feel like they're entirely different worlds, like I'm actually there and it's a real place, and it had pretty good reality rules. It wasn't like having weird things show up that don't make sense now. It actually
Mhm.
had like one looked like Japan, and there I was like going around shops and stuff, and I could literally touch all the objects, and it was very well detailed, and they had tea and it was flavored, and I was talking to people, and some of the people had very interesting conversations with me. And then eventually I got triggered. I think somebody was spying on me, and I think it was like my dream intelligence, my gut like triggered like, oh, there's something here, and now they triggered like your defenses, and then I had all this awareness come up back to me, and it was like, oh, I'm in a dream, wonderful. And then I was like, oh, what can I test? I know they're going to try to get me out of here as fast as possible. So because like I have things that try to pull me out of the dream if I've been in there too long lucid. They don't always
That's interesting.
succeed, but if I'm there too long, I will absolutely challenge the reality very strongly. It's I started lifting things in the room. I started because like I had a bunch of dreams lucid before that where I was able to do all these different abilities, not like usually all at once. I put them all at once in that one, but like I trained like telekinesis by in another dream. I was like on a space station. It was really weird. I don't want to go too much into it, a little bit secret, but I was with some friends, and there was like a bucket of water with a rag in it, and I started telepathically force lifting it up, and it started lifting up, and I could actually feel it, and it was like emotional with
Oh
me, and
wow.
I was like lifting it all the way up, and I was like dropping it on people in the crowd, and then I was lifting it up again, and then I started lifting up bigger objects. That was fun. But in this stream, I started doing that, and then more things started showing up, and they were trying to pretend to be human. I think they were like somehow riding Nordic or something when I tuned back into it. And they're really concerned about me, and they're trying to shut down my abilities. They started imprinting all these psionic barriers and blocks onto me I could feel, and I was starting to bust through that. And then I kept getting this sense, or that, oh, this is like your normal life. All these imprints, it's just like a lot in all over, and it feels like they're not there, kind of blocks. When I was unblocked and I was fighting those blocks, I could feel more deeply into things, and it was interesting. I saw these people from the previous stream that were like superheroes that were teaming up with me for something, and I don't want to go too much into that, but they each had a different ability, and I was like that stimulated me in the lucid dream to use each one of their ability, and I started teleporting by like seeing the place, and feeling into being there, and then kind of like a blink out shift, like after a charge up. And then I used that to escape them a bunch, but they kept tracking me down. And the dream was long, but like I'm trying to compress it. And then flying around, I started playing with, and a bunch of other abilities. And then they got really aggressive, and a lot of them started showing up, and I had to like force them away and use some of the abilities. And eventually it like turned into a bunch of different weird stories that tried to affect my memory and get me to forget that I was in a lucid dream, and get me it tried to get me to play along with a story that was going on, and to slowly forget about the other awarenesses. And then, and as those awarenesses slowed down, and then I tried to use the ability again, it wouldn't work as well. And then eventually the ability shut down, and I was like, wow, these people.
Wow, that's interesting. And, you know, it kind of triggered something when you told me about that, because one of my sons said that they had a lucid dream that was a little bit disturbing, but from what you told me, it sounds like it was somebody was trying to harvest energy, because it seemed very real. Here, imagine this. You're in a car, and then you're somehow, I don't know exactly how, but all of a sudden you're in water, and you're sinking, and you're going down, 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 and you wake up just before you die or drown. Like, that would certainly trigger fear emotions, I would think.
It could be a lot of things. Death dreams, interesting.
Didn't actually die. They woke up before that happened, but it certainly.
Most of the time I get it as an attention grabbing dream. Like, it'll usually mean something to the reality. It might be a metaphor. It might even be a warning to them of death that they can prevent, or like a death that they had in the past or the past life. Sometimes it's energy harvesting if it puts a lot of fear into them. And if it's reoccurring, now also mostly trying to bring them back to attention. The goal into that is to release all your fear of death, which is like a big release processes, and it holds a lot of stuff to it, but it makes life way better. And the process of that is like figuring out what is beyond death and being okay with that, and knowing that you're not going to just stop existing. Most people are afraid of death because they think it'll lead to non-existence. It's like the universe doesn't want to just waste energy. Nothing is created or destroyed. If you're thinking that will just permeate into the universe, that usually doesn't just happen. There'll always be like memory and purpose and what was before the amnesia barriers that are imprinted at birth. And that can be gone into, and a person through near-death experience, all they got to do is research near-death experiences and the people that have experienced all these different types of things, the Bardo, the Tibetan Book of the Dead, the Egyptian Book of the Dead, the different wisdoms that people have gone to in the school of out-of-body. There's even the thing where if you accumulate enough yang and yin qi in your body, then you can have more memory, have more capability after death, and be able to go beyond.
It does seem like people that have those near-death experiences have greater insight, intuition, ability to see things more or something. I don't know exactly what it is, but it changes people drastically.
Absolutely. And that's the other section of that is near-death experience. A lot of things happen, a lot of time stuff, things going back and forth in time, and making sure the person doesn't die and like comes out of it. Or some people I've seen that are good at near-death experiences, where they're good at getting out of the death experience and then bypassing it. And it, like, they know the technology, it reshuffles your deck, it updates your cards. You have like a bunch of visitations from your guides, and you have a lot of time freeze things. You might even have a flash before your eyes, a life review. You might even go somewhere for a bunch. It's a reaped up update of everything. The person will completely change. They might even have a walk-in situation, but they might go somewhere in a split time and then come back as if anything didn't happen. And that will be part of their new personality. It will, of course, completely change them emotionally, physically, drive, orientation, and their will. And they'll see life as precious and they'll use it to their fullest. And the same thing with dreams. So you can, I know people that are good at mining them. If you were to, I don't recommend just doing this if you have to, but if you're in a situation where you're more, the situations are more death prone, if you're good at this ability and getting yourself out of death situations near death, then there are people that mine them, and they're like upgrades that completely propel them farther. There are some negative things that will incur, but only if the person doesn't clear up and go back to that moment in time and heal it, because there'll, of course, be trauma.
Mm-hmm. Well, see, what I was thinking about that dream I was told you about, was thinking that the person would go back to that dream and then break out of the car. But I don't know.
Yeah, you could do that. That could be like the metaphorical asking for it to do, because like insanity, doing the same thing over and over again. If you experience recurring dreams, it'll usually propel the person to try different things and what works, until eventually you choose the right decision that like ends the cycle.
I don't think this is one was recurring, but I remember a book for the kids when they were young, because it seems like every once in a while they'll go through a period where they have bad dreams. And there was this little book about where they had a monster in the closet or whatever, and they had the basically told the kid to I don't know if it was shoot the monster or close the door, one or the other, but anyway, it was a way of getting rid of it because it was scaring the child. But anyway, that's
it's a good way to do it. Yeah, and monsters in the dream, depending on if it's psionic fear or if there's an actual entity, and I'll go into night terror technology, which is absolutely those beings, and you got to
do that to children.
about it. Huh?
They would do that to children.
Yeah, there's usually a supposed to be a age of protection, age of innocence thing, shield by the guides and Earth and like this innocence collective around the child, one to birth to age 7 is when they start getting some spiritual contracts, and then 9 they fully exit out of it. I mean, they get all their weights on their shoulders coming in of who they are. And but they will, depending on the environmental factors, the family, how targeted things are, the entanglement, there can absolutely be things that will bust past that. And I've seen some of it. It's pretty awful. Some people will wake up in the night screaming, and they won't stop screaming until you actually do something energetically to stop. Because like when I read that, it's like some of the worst case scenarios. I've seen something try to rip a soul shard out of a kid, and they like in this situation, and they won't start screaming until you're able to stop the demon, which we were able to. And then they stopped and they calmed down, and they went back to sleep. But like simulation, then there's people that have seizures too. There's spiritual stuff going on with that. But I'm not going to say exactly what, because it will be tailored to each individual. But yeah, they can do something about that, and like how cannabis and other CBDs and other stuff can completely annihilate that. It's a very spiritual plant, and it's made by angels, and it has a ganja goddess to it, and other things that like are better than most medicines, of course. But that's if they need that. But then you can also do the spiritual things, and a lot of that is cutting off the power that the being has over them to enter their bubble of reality, taking the energy, and you have the right to defend yourself, and you can clear the room, space, or whatever that is an empowering action to do it. You can also use music and sound and shouting, and there's people that I know that have been gotten psychic attacks. I even did this too when I was getting attacked by grays.
Mhm.
Like there's people that like do this I would call it as like a psychic shout or bark that completely like reverberates, like you kind of like an intensity of like internal screaming more than external. But if you want an external scream, go for it, because that will go along with the psychic bark, and you can actually kill beings with that. But not everyone will do that. But if you have
They're
it in your
bad
skill
enough.
set, and if they're like, because if the being's trying to kill the person, you have the right to revoke that back onto them. Whatever force to get them to stop, and you can do that incrementally until they actually stop. If you can keep from killing them, great.
Wow. So I didn't know what you said about cannabis being as spiritual, but I had heard that it breaks mind control programs. Is that
Good
true?
one. I like that. Yeah.
That's what Kathy O'Brien basically said that, and that was the one drug that the Illuminati would not allow any of their sex slaves or whoever they were manipulating to have for that reason.
Exactly. It's a force for good. It's not the devil's lettuce. It's like a repellent for the devil. I mean, there is haunted weed. It's mostly GMO and stuff with Roundup on it.
Yeah, that would figure, and they do try to spray it too, even when it's supposed to be organic. But from what I've heard, I have a friend who makes a paste, which is different because it uses the entire plant, which is kind of a good thing, really, I think. But
It's really, really amazing. It can do so many things. It can hold so many programs. It's very intelligent, very abundant, can help most of our problems. It is able to hold up so much on a shoulder that I have such respect for it. And again, it's made by like ancient cosmic sources and angels. Ancient plants. It's older than this planet. A lot of it, at least I see a lot of it coming from Sirius, A and B, but it's been permeated a lot of other places, and I think it had like concepts and versions of it before this universe as well. And then it has many strains, and people, it will have like things where it will, people will be trading with it constantly, and going through its mystery school as they use it. And it trains them, and if they want, some people will find themselves in the spiritual collective, like they'll have a version of them that is the main spiritual protector of this strain of cannabis or this strain or whatever, and they'll be expanding as a net as it evolves and turns into new strains, especially with the grower. They will have a lot of thing with that, and that will go into its abilities. Each strain does a different ability, and they can be cultivated in interesting ways. A lot of it, it's good at letting go, the art of letting go, man. Just which detachment is like a big form of enlightenment. So that would save a lot of people from demons and all kinds of stuff. You just detach from them, cord cutting, all feeling into that pressure on the ego, and then letting all that go and have no power over you. The negative things have no power over you.
And look at how they brainwash people, and the propaganda used against it, so that it would not even, people have a hard time with it that were heavily programmed, and I never was, but
yeah, the reefer madness, right? And it's good for PTSD. It releases trapped emotions, and you can just work with it in magic and ask it, how many programs can I add to you, and you can put in a sacred place. You can ground it if it's haunted. Every person that's ever touched it, and heal it at the seed level, and clear it. And
Oh,
it doesn't have like the things you can program with it. It will. It doesn't, like, the people that are afraid of it because of the paranoid effect. The paranoid effect
what
comes
is
with
it?
it. If it has a little bit of density in it, it will show its shadow to you, because it usually the density goes along with the owner of it. So it will show
Oh,
you your own shadow until you resolve it or transmute it or something, and then you'll go into bliss experience. But that's only if it's haunted. If you ground it like a bunch of times by like bringing that energy down to the earth, and you want to bring up sacred energy into it, then it won't need that experience, and it will just be paradise and a lot of visions and psychic abilities it stimulates too.
that's what I thought. Okay, that's interesting. Well, I think we're running up on some time here that we probably should call this off
Yeah,
for this time.
honored to be with you.
I think we probably got about an hour and a half in, and if it gets too long, takes longer to process and get out. But anyway, this is fascinating, and I think if you want to continue, we can do another one next week and cover some of the other topics
Yeah, sounds wonderful.
that we didn't cover. So, thank you so much for your time and inspiration and insight and all of this, and thank you.
Thank you. Thank you for having me on the show. Love you all. Thank you, audience. Thank you for being here. Please share. Get the medicine to everyone you can.
Yes, please. There are ways to help people and they don't know about it. And so that's one of the reasons why I do what I do. And I do hope that some people, see this and will contact you and you can help them. That would be wonderful. So let me see if I can figure out how to stop this. Oh, here it is. It's a little different. I'm working on an iMac and I'm not familiar with it yet.
That's fine. That's cool.